So welcome to today's webinars, where our topic will be future of big data and AI in bio startups. Of course, this is a master in management. I will discuss it from the perspective of management instead of from IT. Okay, let's start. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, I will start by telling you that in our society today, the artificial intelligence is expanding at an unprecedented rate. According to the global reports, which we can see on the screen, by 2024, cognitive and AI systems are expected to generate more than 100 billion US dollar, while big data is the foundation of AI, is expected to worth more than 103 billion US dollar by 2027. We can immediately see the gap. Why? Because the big data itself is the data supply side from the AI system. And we can see the AI system is growing faster than the big data industry itself. This problem is become very interesting to discuss this afternoon. As we look at the European report as well, on the right side of your screen, you can see that the AI utilizations in many companies in Europe actually is below 10%. This phenomenon demonstrates that even AI, big data, machine learning, and all those big words, jargon that a lot of management marketers are using, hot topics that among computer scientists, data scientists, in practice and reality, there is a significant gap between AI capabilities that we are having today and the real-world business implementation. This question actually amazed me, and that I would like to share with you all. I'm Dr. Eddie Hansen. I'm a computer engineer by education turned management scientist over the last 14 years ago. I'm a rapid minor and IBM professional, and also a faculty member in ISB, teaching in management of Master of Management. Okay, so let us take a step back. AI is not a new phenomenon in the world. We know that it has been evolving over 6 decades. We can gain valuable insight, analyze new trends, make accurate prediction thanks to the artificial intelligence, although AI is still considered less intelligent than human today. But on the screen, you can see the new data shows us that it's expected that human intelligence will be surpassed by artificial intelligence by 2060. So it's around 40 years to go until the point that computer will actually surpass human intelligence. You might wonder where you can find AI in your everyday life. It's very simple. Just look around you. From an auto correction in Google Docs to an auto suggestion in Gmail, so when you try to type something in your Gmails, and sometimes the Google Mails instantly suggest some filling into your words. Those are AI at work. When you use Google Maps, for example, and when Google Maps suggests you a better road to your work, so that's also an AI at work. Tesla car self-driving mechanisms, your iPhone Siri, e-commerce sites like Tokopedia and Lazada try to recommend something, a very relevant product to you. That is all about AI at work. So let's move on to the healthcare industry itself, where more and more young and innovative scientists are joining ranks to create bio startup. You can see more than hundreds of startups is established around the world using AI to enhance the biotechnology itself. Why? I'm here to tell you that AI can save lives and improve healthcare for millions of people all around the world. AI can help improve access to healthcare, personalized medications, provide better decision-making tools from drug development to create a healthier lifestyle. However, in the industry, current focus on leveraging AI capabilities is still on management, data analytics, and sales marketing. You can see on the screen on the right side that you can see how giants like Facebook and Google are utilize data in order to deliver better advertising. So the top two industry utilizing AI today are data analytics and sales marketing. While healthcare, in other hands, which include biomedicine, biotech, is currently ranked third in the terms of global AI standards. This simply confirms that AI is not being used to its full potential to help create a next level of society, but instead is solely for profit generations. This kind of question is what we ask as a management scientist. So when you are doing your master course here in ISB, you will be challenged this kind of situations where we will ask question why AI is not being utilized fully at healthcare industry, for example. So today I will share 5 challenges that make this happen. What kind of challenge that make healthcare late or lagging in adopting AI? Unlike Google and Facebook, Tokopedia, Lazada, and you can mention any e-commerce, they can use real-time data about your interests to create a powerful marketing communications. Healthcare and bio startup face a very different story with piles of medical records, you can see on the screen, that have yet been digitalized. An outdated operating system that powers those million-dollar medical devices. Despite the fact that your phone may be more advanced than the operating system being utilized on today's healthcare computer side. Another example that you can see, you can very easily go to Google, try to Google this. You can Google WannaCry cybersecurity case in 2017. So around 5 years ago, a WannaCry virus or a ransomware brought down the majority of medical devices around the world because of the outdated operating system of those medical device that make it very vulnerable for this kind of virus. This is a computer virus, a WannaCry virus, to attack it. That become the first and most difficult challenge for bio startup because we always assume that we have a large amount of data. And we always believe that healthcare industry is one of the best at keeping historical data because it's very logical. It's very logical when you go to doctors, you assume that they will keep all your record well. They are very good at doing all the administrative stuff. But actually, this has misled us to believe that we actually have a lot of data in healthcare. And that's actually causing how healthcare technology is lagging behind other industries so much today. A few global giants have monopoly on healthcare and biotechnology. Yeah, you can easily mention a couple of big brands that consolidated around the world on the healthcare and biotechnology market. That has resulted in a new problem actually. While top management competing for profits, image data like this on your screen, this is what we call as an image data. It's very hard for us to get a clean, complete, accurate, and properly formatted data that can work across multiple systems. Why? Because those giants, those monopoly industrial companies is blocking each other. So all this data is not well communicated from one system to the other system, from one device to the other device. As a result, today we can see a very unstandardized, a very not globally accepted format have been rolled out. become a major issue in today's bio startup when they try to create something evolving around artificial intelligence to utilize data. That becomes our second challenge, which we will discuss today, that essentially all AI works by feeding the data sets. So typically a historical data set defined as a training data set is being trained to a computer to recognize a pattern and make it a very accurate prediction or classification. So basically, if you wanted to understand how AI works, it feeds on data, recognize its patterns, and create prediction and classification. That's a simple way to put AI. On the screen, you can see there are three types of AI, three types of data. A structured data, such as clinical data. So when you see a doctor, they will like recording your data. A EMR data, that is very structured data. You got all the dates, names, so on and so forth. While semi-structured data, we can see example like lab report, which is currently is not globally standardized in terms of format and how it presents. Okay, why I'm saying lab report is not structured data? Because if you go to one laboratory and you got a test there, and you go to other country or go to other hospitals, you do another test, the way they presented the lab report is different from one company, from one laboratory to the others. Not the contents might be not different that much, but the format that computer can recognize is quite different from one laboratory to the others in terms of how it's written and how it's presented. And finally, we have the last one, the unstructured data. The unstructured data, such as a doctor notes. So when you see a doctor, the doctor will like take notes on your medical conditions, for example. Now, of course, most of the hospital utilizing a technology or information system, so the doctor can like types, making a record of your conditions in the system, like adding notes and uploading imaging data. So unstructured data is consists of like, for example, doctor notes and imaging data. Why imaging data is different? Very simple, which is if you are taking an X-rays, of course, like from one person to the other person might be different. And we can actually perform better if we organize well-structured global data. That's the second biggest challenge, that we can predict epidemics, for example. We can use those kind of well-structured global data to predict epidemics or even pandemics. This is recently actually a very good case that demonstrated by a COVID-19 pandemic situations. COVID-19 pandemic actually tell us or demonstrates to us a very hard fact about how unintegrated and lacking of our global health technology is. So through the COVID-19 pandemic, we learned that globally, the healthcare industry is not well informed each other, and the data that we thought is very huge is not being utilized to its maximum potential. On the other hand, like the most machine learning techniques, such as neural nets, pattern classifications, NLP, neuro-linguistic, and should be given more attention in order to collaborate with other industry. Why? Because currently in healthcare industry is, according to me, is quite exclusive to its own and not working well together with other industry. That's become another management problem and issues that we need to address. That if the healthcare industry can like work with other industry, it actually can rapidly improve its AI utilizations for public health and bio startup concerns. So basically now, if you look at the availability of our data set in healthcare, Very simple, you can like categorize into two types of data sets. As the first one is the specific data set. Specific data set is such as TCGA, is a global cancer data set. So basically, it's like all the researcher and medical doctor institutions is contributing a cancer data, like a study about cancer cell data together. So the other researcher can like collaborate utilizing this data. So TCGA, a very specific data set. And while a share, for example, is another types of data set, which is a very community driven. So it's an open sharing healthcare data sets that everyone can contribute something. So for example, you are a medical doctor in one side of the world and you find out something very interesting. You compile the data, you upload it online. So the other researcher around the world can also study the same thing. So currently, we only have these two types of data sets, which is specific data sets, which I don't think we have a lot of, it covers a lot of data. So mainly it's like study about heart failures, about cancer cells, like COVID-19, while the community-driven data is not well organized as well as the specific data sets. However, in order to require more robust data sets that incorporates pharmaceutical, healthcare institutions, government data, and the most interesting part is to incorporate also social media and consumer data. So this kind of data sets is actually what we need to answer the second biggest challenge in healthcare on implementing or adapting artificial intelligence. So it's a subset of data that's merging data from the pharmaceutical, which is more focused on like drug development, health institutions on recognizing and diagnosing current situations, government regulations, social media and consumer data shows the actual social conditions of our society. This kind of data is what we really need. Currently, unfortunately, it's still very difficult for us to come by. Okay, so let us end our data discussion here and let us now look at the AI techniques, the artificial intelligence techniques, or we call it algorithms. On the screen, you can see that AI in healthcare and bio startups is being dominated by these two types of algorithms or methods, AI methods, machine learning methods, neural nets, and fuzzy logic. So fuzzy logic can basically, I can define it as a model logical. So fuzzy logic enable us to create a models that is basically a logical model on reasoning outcome, which the outcome is not binary, like true or false, which fit into the medical problems a lot, where there is never 100% certainty. So when there is no 100% certainty, we use fuzzy logic to like predicting this gray area. So fuzzy logic is a good algorithm on predicting those kind of situations, such as like what kind of treatment is the best on treating these conditions of these patients. We never can 100% certain to tell the patients that you can use this and it will solve your problem. It's always like 99 to maybe like 98, 99% of certainty in medicals. So fuzzy logic is very good on answering that. That's why on the screen you can see that fuzzy logic is the second most adopted algorithm in healthcare industry currently. Another techniques that rank number one is neural nets. Neural networks, basically, I can define it as it enables us to enable the computer to mimic how the human brain works by connecting nodes, like millions of data informations, what we call as a nodes, and drawing a connection between them. So that's how our human brain works, right? So we got all this information from our childhood until now, and those information is being organized and being connected one another, that creating our perception perceptions. That's when we see some things, our memory, our experience actually form perceptions on that particular things. So neural nets is mimicking how our brain works. So it's very fit in healthcare industry. Why? Because basically you can throw in any types of data. You can fill in any types of data, structured, unstructured data, semi-structured data, social media data, healthcare industry data, pharmaceutical drugs testing data. You can fit in any types of data, and the neural nets basically along the time and process, it will like giving you a prediction and forming this connection between those data. That creates, this is the closest to a solution that we are looking for in healthcare industry with AI. But because these two methods are widely available in cloud server today, actually utilizing AI in healthcare industry is very easy. So let me explain a little bit about how to utilize AI with cloud server. Cloud servers providers like AWS, Amazon Web Servers, IBM, maybe we have Huawei, we got Alibaba Cloud, and other cloud servers. So mostly cloud servers now also provide us with this kind of machine learning techniques or machine learning modules that you can easily utilize in your case. So it's not difficult anymore for us to deploy AI today, because you can just use a cloud servers to deploy this kind of AI to solving your problems. Okay, so let's move on to the third challenge. So the third challenge is, this is where AI becomes very interesting. So on the screen, consider you are using a social media data, using social media data to analyze someone's lifestyle, stress level, which Instagram post you're liking is being used to predict your behaviors. For example, if you're liking the healthy burgers, the green one on the screens, so we can assume that you are healthier, like you are more adapting healthy lifestyle compared to your fellows or your friends that's like mostly follow or liking this, the right side, the fatty burger one, for examples. So this is just a quick example how we can utilize social media data and to predict someone lifestyle. Although it's not 100% accurate, this is just a quick examples that how interestingly we can incorporate more data into healthcare industry instead of only focusing on like medical healthcare data sets. So on the screen, for example, you can see on the left side of the diagram, it's like consists of all healthcare data, like the medical records and everything. But it is more interesting if today's in the industry, we can incorporate the other side, which is the right side, the green colored circle on the screen. Those kind of data is very important to also be incorporated. Why? Because all this result is a new type of data set, which is improve the predictive power of the AI in healthcare industry. Another option is also to use IoT device. IoT device is like a smart device, can be your phone, for example, that constantly monitor your health, can be smartwatch, and even smart fridge, for example. In the screen, you can see smart cookware. Yeah, a lot of companies now launching this kind of products, you know, like a cookware that also incorporate IoT technology that can monitor the way you cook, your lifestyle, and how you cook everything, that's feeding to the big data that being utilized in AI to predict your healthy lifestyle, for example. So, but the main challenge here is actually is to collect all this kind of data together and have all the industry player collaborates. For example, now the healthcare industry is evolving towards AI by its own. Meantime, the consumer electronic industry that produce this kind of smart device in your kitchen is not collaborate well with the healthcare industry. So the real challenge for management in the futures is to really to understand how to collaborate between industry and to enrich the data sets possible being used for your AI. The fourth challenge here now is about management perspective. Back to the first slide that I mentioned earlier, that only 10% reported in Europe, the large organization had implemented AI. Okay. So on in one hand, we can say AI is like evolving extraordinarily fast. The technology is getting better and better. But on the other hand, those large organizations is like only 10% of them adopting AI in their products, in their services. So this is actually raise a question from a management perspective. Then even worse, to make it even worse, we can see that the report from those companies is like up to 50% of failure rates happen when they try to implement AI. So this also raises another questions like why did most AI project in the world with those big company, of course they have resources, have all the capital, money, expert to help them doing it. Why? The report shows us that 50% of the AI project failed or very poorly executed in those big organizations. Is it really because of lack of skill staff and unrealistic expectations, like on the slide say? I think one of the key problems they're facing in most industry is because AI is being too technology-centric. We always assume that when an AI project begins, it must include those brilliant tech people. Disregard other departments being called involved in the AI project. To put it simply, you cannot simply hire a IT professional and ask them to implement AI in your organizations. It's because before AI can really kick in, someone need to do something first, like you need having your reception to have you scan the data, you need your operation team to actually key in or type in, you need others department to actually record everything to work together. That's why implementing AI is never an IT department job. Implementing AI in an industry or company is about having all people working together, solving and implementing the AI projects. So when we discuss this from a management perspective, the first step is to provide our leader or top management with adequate AI knowledge. Starting with a masterclass like this, like giving them like 7 days or 14 days of training to understand how basically AI works. And when this kind of things, we also need to having the management to be trained to see AI as an organization process, a customer experience process, a selling process, a financial process, and so on and so forth. So management cannot see AI project or implementation in organizations as a IT project. If they see it as an IT project, the chance of that project being failed is very high. That's why it's very important to having a right perspective first and the right mindset from the beginnings, that the management need to understand AI is about the organization process, is also like to enrich the customer experience process, is about the financing process, calculations, selling process, and everything. So on the screen, you can see there are 4 important steps on implementing AI in today's organization. The first one is to define a very clear roles and responsibility, target across the organizations. Equip them with the necessary abilities and skills. So they understand what is AI, what they need to do, why they need to scan this paper, why they need to type in this, why they cannot do this, and determine which process is the best fit in your organizations with different types of algorithm and mechanisms and methodologies in doing artificial intelligence. And treat AI, the last one, treat AI implementation as an entire organization process that basically requiring collaboration with all stakeholders. So when we say stakeholder here, is not only internal of the organizations, but also we will having the customer or consumers involved. We will also supplier involved, even the regulatory or the governments being involved. So AI project is just to show you how massive AI project implementations. That's why even with today's IT advance, not many organizations capable of actually implementing AI in their organization. Yeah. Here, the last challenge that I'm going to share is the management commitment. So I already mentioned that a lot of large organizations utilizing AI in data analytics and sales and marketing. Why? Because sales, marketing, and data analytics basically help them to improve efficiency. So data analytics is helping management to improve efficiency, like providing them with the dashboard data that how all the entire manufacturing process is being done, for example. And on the other hand, sales and marketing, of course, is very clear. AI is being utilized to help them segmenting the market, targeting the right people. For example, if you're visiting Tokopedia and look out for certain products, the next day, the product will keep following you to the other channels. Like when you open up your Instagram, suddenly the same product popping up, you're opening another news portals, and then product advertisements also popping up there. So that is how smart is AI being utilized in advertising technology today on segmenting and targeting the audience. Those kind of things like creating better efficiency for companies and also making good sales improvements, of course, it very clear resulted in a good profit for companies. And on the other hand, on healthcare industry, like implementing AI massively to organize this kind of a huge data process require a lot of cost. A very large amount of capital and cost is needed to implement this. And simply that is not profitable at this moment, then definitely in short term it's not profitable. That's why a lot of management in large organizations, including especially in bio startup or healthcare, is avoiding to use AI at the end, because utilizing AI in healthcare just simply costs them too much, and the profit is in long game, not short terms. On short terms, they cannot see any benefits. So having management commitment is the last challenge we need to do for our future leaders to understand how to drive or how to implement AI project in healthcare. So in this case, of course, we need to challenge the government role as well. So to persuade the industry to use AI more frequently, to encourage research in education sectors, to provide more grants to management executive, I think in this particular challenge, government is the answer. So you can see on the screen, for example, Wired Magazine mentions that the US government will pay doctors actually to use AI algorithm. So the government incentivized the doctors to use AI as a part of the diagnosis process. Another news, for example, this China AI industry is getting most funding but lacks in US. So we can see that recently the China is pushing the AI industry very aggressively. You can simply Googling it. I read the news that the China government actually like provide grants, very, very investment easy ecosystems for those working on AI industry to enter China markets. So I think to answer the last challenge, we need also as the industrial players, executive, and maybe management scholars to push the government to incentivize more of utilizing AI in healthcare industry. So one day we can see the healthcare will evolving and benefiting our society in the long game. Okay, so that is example. So like what you will learn in ISB in our school is all about pushing and equipping our students, especially for example, if you're joining our master in biomanagement, we will learn how to integrate a deep understanding of management concept with life science and technology around life science, of course, like biotechnology. So in today's society, like your working environments, like the manager need a very extensive organization's knowledge through understanding the human behavior, like how to cope with millennials working, like millennials or Z generations work colleague, and also need to be very open-minded. Okay, so this is just a quick example how we analyze problems, like for example, why AI is not being utilized to its maximum potentials in healthcare industry or bio startup because of these 5 challenges that eventually make the healthcare industry AI adoptions lagging. And by having this kind of knowledge and understanding this, it will help us also to solve this problem in the future. So hope you might interested with our programs, and please speak to our admission team here, Mr. Gabriel, to know more about iTrial School of Business. Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you very much for attending today's short webinars. Back to you, Pak Andaman.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the very, very interesting and insightful presentation. I hope that everyone is still here, tuned in into our discussion, as we're now open for Q&A. Okay, all right. So, Bapak Ibu, friends, please use the Q&A box for our Q&A session. We're still waiting for the questions to come in. Okay, we've had only one question so far, and that was answered already earlier. Yeah, it was a question from Keabaka from South Africa. Yeah, and of course, our program is open for all nationalities. Okay, so if you want to learn about big data, AI, of course, this is the right place for you. Okay, all right. So questions, Bapak Ibu, we're open for questions. We're open for questions. Okay, we're still waiting. There are 77 participants, but 0 questions still. Come on. Bapak Ibu, Dr. Eddie is a very busy man. He's here and ready for your questions. It's not all the time that Dr. Eddie can answer your questions. Okay, and yeah, please, questions. Okay.
So I think I will elaborate a little bit, Damar.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Basically, what I just shared today is discussing about implementing AI, but from a management challenge perspective. So it's very often for people to misunderstand that when you learn management in school, it's about accounting, or maybe it's about controlling human behaviors or something like that. But actually, Learning management in School of Business is about also understanding the trends and the future challenges, and what make those challenges or those opportunity is not being implemented or adopted well in our industry. And by doing that and understand that kind of things, we can actually improve. So today, basically, I just give you a quick example how we analyze the challenge in AI, why healthcare industry is a little bit lagging at adopting AI. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you very much, Paidi, for the elaboration. Okay, for those of you who had not been able to like grasp like what all this is about, Dr. Heidi just elaborated it for you. Okay, so feel free to ask questions. Okay, we're open to all questions regarding big data and AI. Okay, so we have two questions already. Okay, the first one is from Isabella. Okay, what will the future of AI be, Paidi? Okay, so that's the first question from Isabella. Okay, so Paidi, you can answer the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Isabella, for your questions. So what will the future of AI be? I don't have exact answer for that, but for sure, AI in the future will become part of our daily life. It's inseparable from our daily life. AI will be everywhere, from your computer, your smartphone, in your kitchens, everywhere. So when data, internet connections, and computing power is increasing a lot, definitely AI will help our society to perform better in terms of like predicting the futures, help us making better decisions. Yeah. Thank you, Bella.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. Okay, so Bella, I hope you're satisfied with the answer. Yeah. Okay. If you have any follow-up questions, please use the Q&A box again. Okay. All right. So before we go into like the three other questions in the chat, sorry, in the Q&A box, we have a raised hand here from Dr. Haja Siti. Okay, so Dr. Haja Siti, you could use the Q&A box for your question, okay? Because unfortunately, other than panelists, you can't really use the microphone. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going into the second question from Bapak Yosep Sugandi. Okay. Bagaimana implementasi AI terhadap dunia industri, khususnya di bidang supply chain management? Okay, that's the question, Pak Edi. You may answer in English, Pak Edi. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pak Yosef, for your questions. Actually, I have a real case in implementing AI in supply chain management while I'm working with the IBM solutions. So actually, AI being utilized in supply chain management for many years now. You can look out for IBM solution, for examples, on internet. One particular examples of how utilizing AI in supply chains management is to predicting how you move the lead time, how you move your inventories from one storage area to the other storage area, and calculate the most optimum and efficient lead time. Yeah. So at the time we are implementing IBM solutions to Coke, yeah, Coca-Cola Amatil Indonesia. So they are utilizing AI in the supply chains management process. And one of the things is they're utilizing the AI to predicting the supply and demands and instantly making a decision how to move goods from one storage area to other storage area. For example, we are coming to the Lebaran. For example, we are holiday season is coming. For example, so the supply and demand, the demand is spiking, and Coca-Cola on the supply chains management system, the AI will instantly recommend to move those inventories from Java Islands to maybe to Sumatra, to Kalimantan, and how to move them the most optimum and efficient way. Yeah, that's hope that's answered about the AI in supply chain.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. Okay, so we're moving on to our next question from Bapak Kuncoro Tristiadi. what is the example tools we can use to build the AI? Okay, very interesting. Okay, Pak Edi, would you? Okay, thank you.
So, Kunchoro, one of the easiest way to implement AI in any industry, in any size of the company, like middle or even small companies, you can utilize these tools, so called rapid miner. So if you look up for university research, a lot of students actually also using rapid miner in their thesis writing, or because this is one of the, maybe I could say, like affordable solutions for us to starting the AI implementations. Yeah. So rapid miners basically help you ingest all the data set. For example, you are trying to implement AI in your sales or inventory. So rapid miner can ingest all the data set from your accounting software, from your CRM, your sales process software. And those data is can be processed through machine learning algorithms. Is being pre-made inside rapid miner. Like you can do KNN classification, you can do neural nets predictions easily with these tools. Yeah, hope that answers. Of course, you can look out for those big tech company like IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, AWS. Those are big names on implementing AI as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. Okay, so now we're moving on to our next question by Bapak Andri Haryanto. Bagaimana tanggapan Pak Edi perihal aspek keamanan atas data privasi publik dalam potensi ancaman keamanan / kebocoran big data dalam kurung e-commerce? Terima kasih.
Okay, so thanks Pak Andri for your questions. This is actually the global concern right now. So you are like representing the global society by asking these questions. So by having all this data moving around so fast with our mobile phones, is recording our data, our computer, when we are using browser, when you're using social media, when you're using e-commerce, all this data is moving so fast in the internet ecosystems. Security now become very big concern and issues in IT, especially AI. Yeah. So there are two mainly trends happening right now. So most of the companies now is being required to implement ISO 27000. So ISO 27000, which is information security procedure and standard. So for banking on financial institution, it had been implemented a long time. So for it's like 20 years. But in other industry, it's not mandatory previously. Now more and more industry is required to implementing this. Okay. The other hand, in Europe, we know that Europe, US, now if you're browsing on some websites, you will explain this pop-up asking that allow cookies, right? So like they keep annoying you, like asking you allow cookies or not, allow cookies or not. But that is also a regulations being rolled out now in globally that requires all the industry players to having permissions from their users before they can record the data. And that's another sample of protecting the privacy of the users. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie. Okay, so we're moving on to the next question. This one's from Jeremy. How about people who don't want to learn about new technology such as IoT? Okay, trends on Motorola hospital right now. Their playground still for smart hospital or infrastructure, not really to analyze until deep learning. Okay, all right. Did you get the question, Pak Eddie? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Vaidi.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy, for questions. So I think in Indonesia or like major developing countries companies, we always having these assumptions that we already have the data. So I have been in the industry as an IT management consultant for 14 years, and I have been selling AI implementation for like 6 to 7 years. And when we've been hired to like implementing AI in most of the industry, we always realize that most of the company don't have the data they assumes they have. So I think that you just mentioned is correct. A lot of company now is just at the level of implementing the infrastructure, preparing the infrastructure instead of like doing those big things like deep learning, like those cool things that you see in the science fiction movie. But in most cases in Indonesia, for example, what we implement for those companies is not doing deep learning. It's just preparing the infrastructure for the next 10 years when they have enough data to actually do all those AI deep learning stuff. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie. Okay, so Bapak Ibu, to those of you who still have questions, please use the Q&A box as soon as possible because our time is not much, okay? We don't have that much time left and we still have like 5 questions on the queue, okay? So yeah, please use the Q&A box as soon as possible, okay? Before we actually close the Q&A session. Okay, all right, so next, this one is from Pak Adi Chandra Setiawan. Bagaimana membedakan AI, machine learning, dan deep learning? Bisakah dicontohkan jika ketiganya saling terkait? All right, so that's the question, Pak Adi. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Buddy. So AI, machine learning, deep learning. Okay, so to answer that, it's all interconnected one the others. So the lowest level is machine learning. So actually, machine learning has been there for many years. Machine learning basically just use the simple way to put it is use statistic to predicting something. Like we just use regressions to predicting the result, for example. That is a machine learning. Yeah, we have been using machine learning a lot of long time, right? So when your machine learning having a real-time data, so to differentiate with AI, so it will become AI if it had like real-time data. So the data is keep coming. So when in machine learning case, the data is not real-time. It's like you are having like last 10 years sales data and then you're predicting next year sales. That's machine learning. Okay. But in AI, like Tokopedia every second, Gojek every second, they will like ingesting new data, right? So it's not like historical data anymore. It's a real-time data. So when you're ingesting real-time data, so the prediction is keep changing, right? It's because the data itself is keep changing. That's become AI. Yeah, the simple way. This is the simple definition I can give. Okay, and when to become deep learning. One example of deep learning is like when you're using Google to do image recognitions. Okay, so like you are uploading some photo in Facebook, for example, it can recognize your face with your friend face and like instantly suggest you to tag them, right? On the surface, seems like it's a quite simple and like simple thing to do, but that is part of deep learning because deep learning is a process. It's not just use historical data, but there's also like there is a part of classifications that understand the closeness between one data and the others. So deep learning, I think, is not deep learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. Okay, now, Dr. Eddie, we have a follow-up question from Ibu Isabella, but we will do it later because we've answered a question from Ibu Isabella. So we will move on first to Bapak Reza, and we will get back to Ibu Isabella's question later. Yeah, okay, at the end of the Q&A session. Okay, all right. So this one is from Bapak Reza. What algorithms are good for AI in the future, like the current algorithms using YOLO and TensorFlow? Okay, that's the question, Dr. Eddie. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Reza. So what types of algorithms? I don't think so. The last question's about algorithm, right? So so I don't think I can tell you like which algorithm is more advanced or than the other. Algorithm is just the methods or the way to solve things. So it's not the more complex the algorithm means it's more accurate on predicting a different case. So selecting algorithm is really depends on what kind of case and situation, what kind of data that you can use, and then selecting the right algorithm, the most efficient way to solve it. Right, so that's algorithms. And to follow up on your statement, like TensorFlow, YOLO, TensorFlow and YOLO, those kind of thing is a framework. So I'm saying it as a framework. It's not algorithm. So you can use TensorFlow. I think TensorFlow is being used a lot in chatbot, right? Being used it's a part of Google provided solutions that you can use TensorFlow for chatbots. Is very good at doing neural language, right? The natural language processing, NLP. So different frameworks, different algorithms. There is no like which one is better than the other.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. Thank you very much. Okay, so all right, we're moving on to a question from an anonymous attendee. I'd like to ask, how do you build up the portfolio and necessary skill sets to work in AI or ML? Okay, all right, that's a very interesting question. Okay, Dr. Eddie, please.
Okay, to answer that, I think I can give you a concise answer that basically there are three types of skill set that currently is being trained and needed in order to excel at AI and machine learning ecosystem. The first one, of course, is computer engineering. That's the part that you understand all those how you organize the data. And the second one is the data science. So we hear a lot of data scientists speak now everywhere. Like you can see job roles like data science. So data science is the one deciding what kind of algorithm, how to transform the data. Those are data scientists. And the last one, most of people forget about this one, is the management part. Because to organize, to implement on organization, you cannot having IT and data science guys to talk to the receptions and sales guy. You need a very good interpersonal skills, a communication skill. Those are the management skill. So of course, the last one is to building up your management skill.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Eddie. All right, so okay, three more questions, Dr. Eddie, and then we can let you go. All right, so three more questions. Okay, so this one is from Pak Ari. How did Coca-Cola move the goods from warehouse to another warehouse using AI? Please give me more detail. Okay. All right, so okay, that's the question, Pak.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I'm not clear before. So Coca-Cola is not using AI. Maybe you are thinking like autonomous truck or autonomous like warehouse robots to do it. No, so it's only a dashboard that giving you a decision, like giving you advice. So the computer system or the dashboard will giving the supply chain managers like you should move 2,000 inventory from Jakarta to Surabaya by end of tomorrow, for example. Those decisions are being like provided by the AI. So it's a suggestion or it's an advice based on the calculations done by the AI. So the AI doesn't give like they actually like try make moving things for you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Eddie, for the answer. I hope that cleared the confusion up. Okay, all right, very good. So next one is from Bapak Michael Yulianto. Untuk implementasi big data akan membutuhkan biaya yang besar. Apakah investment yang besar sebanding dengan apa yang kita dapatkan dari AI/ML? Okay, that's the question, Eddie.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah, to answer that question, actually it's being explained on my slides. That's true. That's one of the biggest challenges and the reason why most of the management in healthcare industry is reluctant to implement AI. The cost is not, the cost is lower than the benefit they were getting, the profit, right? That's why AI, I mentioned that is widely utilized in sales and marketing, right? Because if AI utilized in sales and marketing, it instantly like providing better sales and generating more profit. AI also being used in data analytics. For example, the chains one, because when your manufacturer, when the manufacturer process, distributing process become more efficient, you can justify it to the profit easily. But how about like providing better customer care? How about providing better customer experience with AI? Maybe you cannot see the instant correlations between that with the healthcare. That's why in Indonesia, for example, most of the financial institution is utilizing AI by saying that they have a chatbot. Okay, I have a customer care that is robot that I'm using chatbot, right? But most of the times you don't like to chat with a robot, right? you prefer to call it because the experience is not there. Yeah. So the challenge, to answer that challenge, I mentioned that I think the government need to incentivize this technology advancements by giving grants and like maybe maybe giving incentive like reducing tax or whatever to give benefits. The same strategy goes with the green economics, right? Like the green carbon credits. So we can do it maybe like the AI credit. So if your company implementing AI, then you're getting some financial feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Eddie. All right, so we're moving on to our last question of the day. This is a follow-up question from Ibu Isabella. Thank you for the answer, Paidi. This refers to her first question, Paidi. I'm curious about the future of AI in job roles. I'm a senior change and a project manager. We already use AI. Okay. Do you have anything to say about this, Dr. Eddie?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Bella. So regarding this, because this last question, I will elaborate for you. So how AI will change the job roles? That's already start to happen in Indonesia. We can take one example. One of the largest bank in Indonesia, the private bank. I don't need to mention the 3 letters bank. Okay, the 3 letters banks already start to utilize AI and changing the job roles. Number one, you don't need to go to the bank now. You can use the machine to do anything. Number one. Number two, the back-end process that previously being done by humans, like key in, type in things, sending, inputting to the system, now is being replaced by a system called robotic process automation, RPA, robotic processing automation. So robotic processing automation is the trending now on feeding the AI. So a lot of job roles is being replaced by this RPA. So it's like a subdomain of AI, but basically it's just mimicking what you do in procedural and looping, and eventually provide. It will change how we will in job roles in the futures. Yeah. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Eddie, for answering all of the questions. I think we've run out of we've run out of questions, and I think it is safe for us to like just close the Q&A session now. Yeah, Dr. Eddie. First of all, I would like to thank you for delivering this very, very insightful presentation, Dr. Eddie, and hopefully it could be useful for all participants that have attended our discussion today. And if you have any questions regarding AI or big data, you can contact Dr. Eddie, right, through email, yeah? Okay, so Dr. Eddie's email is eddie.jansen@i3l.ac.id.
Yes, correct. You can find my profile in i3l.ac.id. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Eddie. And thank you so much to all attendees. And it's been great to have this discussion with everyone here. And see you again in our next MBM talk. Thank you, Dr. Eddie, and thank you, everyone. I will give this back to Azalia as the MC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Andamar, for become our moderator for today's event. Thank you so much, Dr. Eddie, for the insightful information regarding future of big data and AI. I think this is the end of our session. I think we guys all healthy and stay safe. Okay, me along I3L team and Dr. Eddie will end this session. Thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie.